Alright, I'm going to show you what real life testing looks like out in the field. Right now we're down in Lancaster, California, testing about 127 backflow devices. All of them look kind of like this. They have a little cage for death proof, little lock on there. Walking up to it, we already start our NIIO, notify, identify, inspect, and observe, and we can see moisture on the ground. Thick moisture. I mean, it just rained here, so that could be it, but the looks a little thicker than usual, so it could be from the backflow or some pipe. So first I gotta get these cages open and take a look underneath there. These are usually filled with black widows, so let's get this sucker unlocked. This is usually what we're seeing here when we open these up. Sometimes they have insulation. So check around here. I look for first the black widow that always lives here. I don't see them yet, so I'll just be mindful. So this is RP, Fedco, 825Y. I think it's 1 inch here. Serial number there is visible. Sometimes when you can't see the serial number, a good tool to use is just a little bit of sandcloth. Kind of run it here. And so you get a nice clear picture of that serial number here. And what I notice here is we got messed up number 2 shutoff valve handle, and we have an active leak. So that kind of tells me it's most likely what this all this moisture is from. But we'll go ahead and test it anyway and see what that leak is coming from. Usually it's the number 1 check, but sometimes it might be that O-ring seal on the relief valve. So let's check it out and see what's going on. So the gauge I'm using today, gauge I usually use, is the Midwest 845 5-needle valve. And so we already did our NIIO, so now identify our test cocks. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all there. So let's hook up our test fittings. I usually just hook up the number 2, 3, and 4, just because we're doing a lot of testing. Then we'll still do our preliminary steps. Problems like that. There's problems we encounter. Insulation there. Sometimes our test fittings won't fit on there. So what I like to carry is a Leatherman on my hip all the time. Always carry a Leatherman. If you need to cut away some of the insulation there, cut it back just enough where you could fold it back into place when you're all done. And let's see if we can fit our test fitting on there. And perfect. So these ball valves have these nice little handles on there. That'd be awesome if all of them were like that. So preliminary steps. We'll flush, starting with test cock number 4. Then we go to number 3. Then number 2. Number 1. We'll shut off number 1. Shut off number 2. Shut off number 3. Shut off number 4. The reason why we do this is to not prematurely discharge this relief valve here. All the steps we're taking all the way up until that point is to prevent that relief valve from opening up, because USC wants the very first reading we get. So let's get started. So we'll get the High side hose, hook it up to the number 2 test cock. The low side hose, hook that up to the number 3 test cock. Go back to my gauge, make sure everything's all closed up and snug and everything. Make sure my bleed hose here is going somewhere else, not towards me, out towards the street where it could spray somebody walking by. So we're going to open up our number 3 test cock, supply pressure to our low side. And then over here, we're going to open up our low side bleed. Have that bleed out, have it remain bleeding. Do not close it. Then we're going to go up here to our number 2 test cock. Open that up, give us pressure to the high side. You'll see your gauge needle go up. If it does not go up, you probably have something hooked up wrong. And then we go down here, open up the high side bleed, just like that. While those two are still bleeding, we're going to take... So unfortunately, in this decision, or in this situation, I'll have to use a pair of channel locks to get in here. Try to shut this off. I won't be able to do it by hand, just because this valve is so jacked up. Close those up a little bit. Flip the channel locks around, even though I discourage backwards channel locks using, but tight spaces. Alright, we got that off all the way. Go back to our gauge. Shut off the high side bleed first. And then what I like to do is give a little more pressure, have that climb all the way up to the higher side of the gauge there, and then close our low side bleed. That will bring us to our parent reading. And what we see here is this is dropping all the way down, all the way down, all the way down into the relief valve opening point. This is starting to drip more and open. So what I do at that point, I kind of make sure that my low side control is closed all the way. All these other needles are closed all the way. Nothing that's throwing off our gauge here. And then I'll reestablish pressure to my gauge, just to kind of verify that we are getting a leak for that number 1 check. And this is usually where we get our apparent read. And this one's dropping all the way down to about 2.5. So technically, you know, the relief valve is passing. It's opening above 2.0, and that's good. But the relief valve, or the number 1 check, is leaking very bad. I mean, straight to relief valve dumping point. And that tells me that something is, there's a big issue with the number 1 check. You know, either that check blew apart or the disc is just straight up missing. We got our reading. That's our final reading. We got to stop the testing from this point on. So the most important thing I always teach everybody is to get the water back onto the customer. I mean, this one's irrigation, so we're able to go through. But this, if this was domestic, you know, we need to get this water on as soon as possible. The number 1 thing. And so in this case, this backflow failed. The number 1 check failed to the relief valve opening point. You could still record that relief valve opening point. At least there's data on that. But in this case, what I see, this is old. You'll see how these serial numbers are plated here. That tells me that this is an old Febco here. And you know, judging by the number 2 shutoff valve condition, the number 1 shutoff valve condition, you know, that's probably not going to shut off. And then on top of that, we got galvanized piping risers here. So, you know, there's a lot of bad things working for this backflow. So I'm going to tell our customer that we need to replace it, and replace it with all the risers and everything. We'll get underneath this cage, replace risers for the 90s up. And yeah, that's pretty much how testing in the field goes. All these issues, all this insulation you got to look out for. You got to look for black widows, all those stuff. Make sure you're taking all your preliminary steps so you catch those first failures when they happen. Anyways, hope you guys liked the video. Like and subscribe if you guys liked it, and we'll see you next time.